When I was little, I used to always flick off the salt. Now I keep the salt on. I've grown up. Hi, I'm Samantha Seneviratne. I'm going to show you how to make soft homemade pretzels. I mean, who doesn't love pretzels? I love pretzels. I have a very distinct memory of shopping with my mom as a little kid and sitting in the basket. And there was a department store that sold these like really old, sad pretzels, but I got to have one every time we went to that store. So pretzels were a part of my life from a young age. A perfect soft pretzel has to have both chewy parts and soft parts. In that round, thick part, they're nice and soft, but then the ends are sort of chewy and a little bit crunchy. This is not a complicated recipe. You can split it up over a couple days. You don't have to use a mixer. You can use a mixer. It's very easy and very fun and super satisfying because they come out looking so beautiful and so professional no matter what you do. Easy peasy. Okay, so we can make our pretzel dough. We're gonna start by blooming our yeast, brown sugar, just to give the yeast a little something to snack on. And we'll let that sit until it's nice and foamy. That'll take about 5 minutes. I use bread flour in this recipe just to make a sort of chewier, breadier pretzel. If you're using a high protein all-purpose flour, it should work fine. I like bread flour because it ends up being a little bit chewier. You can use light brown sugar if that's what you have. You could even use granulated, but I think that molassesy flavor is actually kind of nice in the pretzel. And your 4 tablespoons of butter should be at room temperature so they sort of incorporate easily. So once that butter sort of breaks down and it gets incorporated and my yeast mixture is nice and foamy, I can toss them together and switch to the dough hook. I mean, it's ready, it's fine. I can tell that it's active and happy. So it feels weird to just stand here and watch it as opposed to like trying to make dinner and feed the dog. That's the whole point of a stand mixer, right? So you can do other things. All right, let's switch. We'll need this about 4 minutes until everything comes together into one nice cohesive mass. Should I knead it by hand a little just to see? Oops. You can see it's a pretty easy dough to work with. It's fun to knead it by hand. So now we'll just wrap this up and throw it in the fridge, and it needs to rest for at least 8 hours, but you can keep it in there overnight too. Traditionally, pretzels were dipped in a lye bath. Lye is a really strong alkali. It's also corrosive. I've heard that you can like melt bodies in lye. I don't know if that's true. It's tough to work with. You have to wear gloves, you have to wear protective eyewear, things like that. I've never actually done it. So a common workaround is to use a baking soda bath. You can bake your baking soda. It sort of concentrates the alkali and it sort of replicates lye. It gives the pretzel that beautiful, burnished, shiny, dark brown exterior, and you get a better, deeper, pretzelier flavor. So my dough has been resting overnight in the fridge. A long rest is great for developing flavor and smoothing out the dough. You shouldn't need any flour at this point. Ideally, the dough is sticky, but not too sticky. I generally find that when you add too much flour in the rolling process, you end up with sort of denser, dry dough. So I try not to add more flour if I don't need it. If your dough is sort of fighting you and wanting to come back together, just let it chill out for a minute and let the gluten sort of relax so that you can work with it again. So we'll roll this out to an 18 by 10 inch rectangle. It's a really very delightful dough. Now we need 10 long strips. I'm marking it twice because it's so long that my ruler's not gonna reach. And I wanna make sure I get somewhat straight. I'm not really following my lines, but I think it'll be fine. Yeah, they're pretty good. You can see my dough is super slack. It's not like fighting me at all, which is so nice. I like to roll it into a little bit of a round. I would like to travel to Bavaria and learn the traditional method. I cut off the little endies because they were sort of thicker than the rest, but you can bake these too, and then they're like cute little pretzel bites. So we make a U and then cross them over. I like to twist it again, and there you go. Silicone baking mats are gonna make your life much easier. If you don't have them, you can just grease the heck out of a baking sheet and bake it on that. So now these are all shaped and I can just set them aside for about 45 minutes to rise and let the outside just dry out. So then you get sort of a little bit of a skin on your pretzel, which sort of gives it more of a pretzel, chewy pretzel vibe. This is my scientific explanation. You can use any kind of pot. If this spills over onto your stove, it's gonna make a little bit of a mess. cleanable, but just know that molassesy flavor is gonna be really nice here. This baking soda, it is corrosive, so try not to touch it too much. It's gonna bubble up a little. You can smell it, it already smells like pretzels. So good. I think you could also add like a dark beer to this mixture too, if you wanted to. A little more flavor. So we're just gonna dip them into this mixture for about 10 seconds per side. Doesn't take very long. This is the time to reshape them a little because they do get a little funny after the water bath. So I think they're kind of cute when they look homemade, so don't worry too much about it. I read somewhere that maybe they were made by monks originally and the arms are supposed to be like some kind of prayer hands. Don't quote me on that, but we'll cook these little nubs too. We're gonna brush them with an egg wash, which isn't traditional, but it's gonna help the toppings stick and make them beautiful and shiny and golden. This is my pretzel salt. You can see it's like super duper white. It's the perfect size. It's crunchy, but not too crunchy. It's the perfect saltiness. But if you can't find pretzel salt, you could use coarse sea salt. I mean, you could even use kosher salt or flaky salt. The finished product wouldn't look as pretzel-y. This is some everything bagel seasoning. I have my racks in the upper and middle third of the oven, and then I'm gonna just swap them halfway through cooking so they both get evenly browned. So I also made a dough with some raisins in it, just for fun. We'll cut those into little pretzel bites. These are gonna be sort of sweet and salty all in one. These went for about 18 minutes. I'm just looking for a really dark color, but I like them really dark. You could take them out a couple minutes early if you want them a little lighter. They're cooked on the outside, but they're still kind of squidgy in a good way. But just make sure, yeah, the bottom looks perfect. I like these little nubs too because then nobody knows you ate anything. And you can eat these all in the kitchen by yourself before you share. So we're just having a little bit of fun, seeing what the best method to get these nice and buttery and then sugary. Ooh, it's like a donut pretzel. I mean, yum. What should I say about this beautiful pretzel party? So here are my everything bagel, regular, cinnamon sugar and raisin. And then to dip, we have some beer cheese, some homemade ranch dressing, and all manner of mustard. Grainy, yellow, creamy French Dijon, and then honey mustard. I really want to get into the beer cheese. Oh my God. And the pretzel is so nice. It's got that real salty, tangy, excellent exterior. And it goes really well with all these different sauces. When you make them yourself, they're like perfectly chewy, soft in all the right places, but you have these like crunchy ends that are so great. It's like all these different textures and flavors, and you're gonna love it. I promise you're gonna love it. Yum. Which dip next? I've eaten so many pretzels. I'm having a solo pretzel party. I need a friend. Vaughn, come have a pretzel. You can find the link for this recipe below and more of my recipes on NYT Cooking.